disease envy, join together all our hearts as one, that will be free from fear. Bless our leader, each and every one, and Mother Malawi. Thank you. We can take our seats. The Honorable Minister of Tourism, Mrs. Vera Kantukure, Honorable Minister of Natural Resources, Dr. Michael Usi, Honorable Minister of Water and Sanitation, Honorable Abidamia, the Honorable Minister of Education, Mrs. Monica Changanamuno, Dr. Thomas Montali, CEO for National Planning Commission, Madam Isabel Kachinjika, the President of Institute of Marketing in Malawi, senior government officials here present, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to this exciting opportunity for us to look at what Malawi offers to the rest of the world in terms of tourism. Malawi remains one of the favorite holiday destinations for people across the world. And in this part of Africa, we have got an exciting array of things to offer. The purpose of this discussion is to bring these things to light, but also use the opportunity of the valuable input that you can give so that we position our country as the best destination for tourists across the world. Malawi enjoys a beautiful, beautiful lake. And we also have got a diverse nature and rivers and mountains and valleys and a wide variety of wildlife. We've got spectacular surroundings, we've got a vibrant culture, and we are reputed to be the warm heart of Africa because of the friendly nature of our people. This is something that no one can take away from us. This is something that we celebrate. And that is why the Malawi International Tourism Expo is back. The Takulandirani Malawi Tourism Expo is back, and we are here to showcase those things that we celebrate as a country, as a people. This evening, we are going to have a public lecture that is going to be delivered by the Honorable Minister of Tourism. And this is an opportunity for all of us and those who are following us online to understand the value of tourism to Malawi as we also build a national consciousness of the value that we have in this country. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite the Director General of the National Planning Commission, Dr. Thomas Chatalala Montali, to come forward and set the tone for the evening. Dr. Montali.
Thank you so much, Joab, and thanks to the Honorable Minister of Natural Resources for starting to clapping hands, because you have made it very lively. I was getting a bit worried. The Honorable Minister of Tourism, Honorable Vera Kantukule, who is the guest speaker tonight. We look forward to the public lecture. The Honorable Minister of Mining, Honorable Monica Changanamuno, the Honorable Minister of Water and Sanitation, Honorable Abid. Well, we're back. And the Honorable Minister of Natural Resources, formerly Tourism, Honorable Michael Usi, and also the Honorable Deputy Minister for Education, Honorable Nancy Shaulandoko. I also want to recognize the presence of the Governor of the Reserve Bank of Malawi, and indeed the PS for Tourism, and the team from the Ministry of Tourism that have done a great job in organizing this. I also want to recognize the Beke, the UN resident coordinator in Malawi. Thanks for making time to join us tonight. The industry captains. I see a number of PSs with us here and senior government officials, those watching with us online, and indeed, ladies and gentlemen, and the first gentleman tonight. I recognize that Honorable Kantukuli has come with his very own better half. I wanted to start by saying that if those of us that have managed to read the Malawi 2063, I'm not sure how many of us have not read the Malawi 2063 document. Have not read. When I ask a question, I hope you answer. So at least almost all of us have read the Malawi 2063. This is our vision. We want to have an inclusively wealthy and self-reliant nation. And pillar number 1, number 2, number 3, who can tell me where tourism belongs out of the 3 pillars? I want to test whether we really have read the Malawi 2063. We've got 3 pillars of Malawi 2063. Which of the 3 pillars does tourism fall under? Wow. So you see, it seems not many of us have read. So it falls under pillar number 3. Thanks, Honorable Bidamia. So it falls under pillar number 3, under urbanization. Now I just want to read a few excerpts because this is evening. I don't want to take much of your time. We are all looking forward to Honorable Kantukule sharing with us about tourism tonight. But I want to read just quickly a few excerpts from the Malawi 2063. So pillar number 3, under urbanization, it says, we shall have world-class urban centers and tourism hubs across the country with the requisite modern socio-economic amenities. I'll read another one. Tourism in Malawi has a diverse and scenic landscape made up of lakes, rivers, mountains, and valleys, in addition to a rich and diverse culture. However, this vast wealth in tourism is not being fully harnessed. Transport infrastructure systems, roads, rail, air, or water transport are not well developed currently. Current tourist attraction sites are not well serviced with superior accommodation, affordable fast internet connectivity, appropriate financial services, and uninterrupted energy and water supply, amongst others. Further, we have not effectively branded ourselves as a tourism hub within the region and internationally. So this is why I'm reading the last statement. Malawi shall be among the first destinations of choice for international conferences in the region. This will be facilitated by deliberate and intensified marketing of our tourism industry. And the lady who is going to market that tonight is no other than the Honorable Minister herself, Honorable Vela Kantukule. By the way, she's been a champion of the Malawi 2063. I think it doesn't depart on her lips, more or less like in the biblical times, that don't allow the word to depart from your heart. I think it's been engraved in her heart. I can attest that when we were doing the flyers, there wasn't the Malawi 2063 logo. And she said, look, we need to have the Malawi 2063 logo on the flyer. And it had to be withdrawn and recirculated with the Malawi 2063 logo. So a big hand up to the Honorable Minister of Tourism. I think with that, ladies and gentlemen, we do hope that when she speaks after this, Malawi's destination as a tourism destination will rise from nowhere like Arsenal and go to the top. And I'm sure that we'll remain there on top. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Muntali. I don't know where your loyalty lies, to Malawi or Arsenal, but we do appreciate your sentiments all the same, and thank you so much for setting the tone and reminding us that as a country we've got a goal, we've got an ambition, we've got a dream, and that is Malawi 2063. So we're not just doing these things because we want to do them, but because we have got a plan and we are on our way to achieving that. And things like these are some of the things that are going to help us achieve that dream. And of course, with valuable partners like the Institute of Marketing in Malawi, a key partner in this expo that is being organized a little bit later this month, but also in this particular event. So it's for that reason that I would like to invite the President of Institute of Marketing in Malawi, Madam Isabel Kachinjika, to come forward and give us a short address.
The Honorable Minister of Tourism, Honorable Vera Kamtukule, all government ministers present here, all government officials, all representatives of various government institutions, business captains, members of the diplomatic corps, our future leaders from the Malawi Assemblies of God University, ladies and gentlemen, if you have the ability to love, love yourself first, states Charles Bukowski. Ultimately, today's event is all about self-love. It is about developing a love for our country, Malawi, that surpasses the love that we have for any other place on planet Earth. When you love someone or something, you are proud of them and have positive stories to tell about them. When you love someone, even though you're aware of their shortfalls, you choose to focus on their strengths and leverage them in order to create value from them. Today's lecture is about how each of us has a key role to play in developing this positive narrative for our beloved Malawi, so that she can live up to her full potential. Honorable Minister, as you are aware, the Institute of Marketing in Malawi, of which you are a member, is very passionate about the Brand Malawi agenda. In fact, Brand Malawi forms an integral part in the marketing policy and bill that is being drafted for legislation. As IMM, we believe that promoting Mother Malawi should be a collaborative effort between the government and the private sector. And we believe that as marketing professionals, we have the expertise to assist the government in promoting our beloved country. Honorable Minister, I therefore thank you for accepting our invitation to grace this auspicious occasion ahead of the upcoming Takulandirani Expo. Let me also take this opportunity to thank your ministry for the confidence that you have always had in the marketing profession, which has resulted in us serving on the Tourism and Hotels Board for several years now. Our dedication to driving the tourism agenda remains unwavering. At this juncture, may I just say, may God bless Malawi and may God bless you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Madam Kanjichika, for those remarks. What is coming up next is a lecture. It's not a preaching, it's a lecture, which means after the lecture there will be an opportunity for us to feedback. When someone is preaching, all they say is hallelujah and they say amen and you go. Although sometimes you go with a lot of questions in your head, you're like, what did he mean exactly? But for this one, we are allowed to maybe even disagree with the minister politely, and also bring across other ideas about the discussion at hand. So I would like to invite us to listen attentively and take notes should we want to, and then we will provide an opportunity where we can have a conversation with the Honorable Minister. I know her personally, she's a capable person, so if there are issues that we think we want to discuss at a policy level or at any level at all, I'm sure she'll be glad to indulge us in that. So let us listen to the presentation of the lecture attentively, as there will be a feedback session shortly after that. And with that, I would like to invite us to put our hands together as the Honorable Minister of Tourism takes to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. Allow me to recognize the presence of the President of the Republic of Malawi, who has joined us tonight online. You're welcome, Your Excellency, as well as the Vice President of the Republic, Dr. Saulos Klaus Chilima. You're welcome, sir. Allow me also to recognize my colleagues, Honorable Abida Siddiq Mia, Minister of Water, Honorable Monica Chianganamono, Minister of Mining, Honorable Nancy Chaulandoko, Deputy Minister of Education, Honorable Michael Biswick Usi, Minister of Natural Resources, the Reserve Bank Governor, Ms. Becky Donto, UN Representative, Excellencies, Ambassadors from Morocco, Japan, Members of Parliament here present, Dr. Thomas Muntali from the NPC, the PS Secretary for Tourism, and all senior government officials here present, the President of IMM, Ms. Isabel Kachinjika, business captains here present, our young people, our online viewers tonight all over the world, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, and allow me to apologize if I missed any one of you, so let me say all protocols observed. I would like to start by dedicating this lecture tonight to a woman that gave everything that she had in her to elevate or raise the profile of Malawi tourism, Ms. Blandina Kondowe. May her soul continue to rest in peace. If she were here tonight with us, she was going to be all over the place running around to make sure that, yes, we can put our hands together. So I'm dedicating this lecture tonight in her honor. And so I think as alluded to, we have an expo that is coming up after 2 years of absence from the 26th to the 27th of April 2023 here at the BICC. And apart from the expo itself, there's a number of issues that we have lined up, including the public lecture tonight. So as I go and cruising into this public lecture, please do take your notes, and I'll be available to answer any questions. We can even interact after the event or even afterwards in the run-up to that event. So we have named this lecture as the value of tourism to Malawi, raising national consciousness. So at the end of this presentation, I'm going to talk about the historical context of tourism in Malawi, and I'm hoping they're going to be beaming. The Vision 2020 strategic options, the centrality of tourism, where exactly are we placing tourism in Malawi or in our development agenda? Our media, are we okay? Because I can't see it being beamed. Also, we are going to talk about the economics of tourism in Malawi, the policy framework, the challenges that we are facing, as well as the roles of stakeholders, and obviously, I'm going to conclude. So the first phase of tourism is dating back to 1960. 1960s to the 1990s. And at this time, the tourism sector was not very much developed, and the transportation was mainly road and rail at that time. And the tourists that we were having in Malawi at that time were coming from South Africa, and the expatriates that were based in Zambia mostly. However, government at that time, it constructed a lot of hotels, a lot of inns, a lot of international conference facilities. So you have the Mount Sochi, Capital Hotel, Chitipa Inn, Kasungu Inn, Gabo Inn, Hotel Chisakalime, Kuchawe Inn, Coppola Lodge, Livingstonia Beach, now called Sandbed Livingstonia, as well as Club Makokola. That one used to belong to the government. And we also invested in the Kamuzu International Airport and even Air Malawi. And at one time, our fleet of aircrafts even reached up to 14. And we're flying to London and Amsterdam, and we had the British Airways, KLM, Air France flying into Malawi at the time. The Malawi Institute of Tourism as well was also created solely to develop skills in the sector. Our international tourist arrivals increased from 50,000 in 1973 to at least 100,000 in 1989. And that was how Mount Sochi used to be. It was opened in 1968. To your left there, that was Mount Sochi. And to your right, that was how Nyasaland was. And I don't know if you can see very clearly, but we used to have those lights, electronic South African Airways billboards. So it had an SAA billboard there. It was an electronic one, and that was in 1972. So that was how we used to do our advertising at that time. And we had the Air Malawi with 14 aircrafts, and that was how it was looking at that time. The second phase was from 1990 to 2009, and it is dubbed the golden era as far as tourism is concerned in Malawi. And our international tourist number, it trebled up to 387% from 195,000 in 1995 to 755,000 in 2009. And in this period, the Ministry of Tourism was for the first time created in 1994. And we used to have some laws that were a little bit inhibiting to our international tourists. So we had the review of the law, and now the women were allowed to wear trousers, pair of trousers, and the men, they were allowed now to have long hair, but before that they couldn't be allowed. And we also waived some visas for some key countries in the EU, like the Spain, Netherlands, Germany, UK, Portugal, among others. And literally we had an influx now of private sector players coming into the sector, the tourism sector, because it was now liberalized. But at first, it was just government being at the center of everything. The third phase is from 2010 to 2019. Government invested in the BICC, where we are now tonight. And the Kia received the first facelift with assistance from the Japanese government. The National Tourism Policy was developed at this time, and we received the first financial boost from the African Development Bank of up to $11 million in the sector. And tourism was also prioritized as a main service sector in the National Export Strategy too. And with these interventions, tourists coming into Malawi increased from 746,000 in 2010 to 978,000 in 2019. The fourth phase is from 2020 to date. Now, this is the time when we were hit by the COVID-19 pandemic, as you may be aware. And our tourism sector, it received a very big blow. It went down up to 79%. And our guests, from 978,000, it went down to 198,000 in 2020. And then this was followed by several cyclones that we had and natural disasters that we had as a country, but also I think globally as well. And now we are also dealing with Cyclone Freddy. So as an intervention, the Ministry of Tourism suspended the 1% tourism marketing levy, but also the requirement of tourism license fees was, the players were allowed to pay these fees in installments. COVID-19 pandemic prevention, standing operating procedures were also developed. And also I recall that the Ministry of Labor also developed workplace guidelines to manage, for sectors to manage on the issues of COVID-19. Because I think the key issue there was that businesses should continue running, but also most importantly, that people shouldn't lose their jobs, while we're also protecting them against the COVID-19 pandemic. At the moment, a majority of our operators are back in business, even though some of them are not at full operational capacity. But as of 2021, we had increased by 117%, so that we had our visitors from 198,000 in 2020 to
to at least 433,000 by 2021. So according to the Vision 2020, in Vision 2020, Malawians aspire to achieve sustainable growth and development and become a middle-income country with per capita income of $1,000 by the year 2020. The Vision 2020 also acknowledged that Malawi tourism sector held a lot of tourism potential and could potentially make substantial contribution to foreign exchange earnings, employment, and economic growth. Fast forward to 2020, in the MW 2063, we, the people of Malawi, for the first time in history, we sat down and decided to create a long-term development plan. And we as Malawians desire and resolve to be an inclusively wealthy and self-reliant upper middle income country by the year 2063, so that we can fund our development needs primarily by ourselves. Our manufacturing industry shall have strong forward and backward linkages with sectors that will drive it. We shall achieve this vision through collective effort and shall not allow anyone, any state or non-state actor, to derail us. That's what we resolved as a people, and that's what is still obtaining even as of now as I stand before you tonight. But what am I really saying? What I'm saying is that the bottom line is that we resolved to do what I'm saying now, 23 years ago. We resolved that tourism is a big part of our economic growth. 23 years ago, we had it down already. Now, tourism aspirations are also making a very big part of the MW 2063, but also the MIP1, the 10-year implementation plan. What it means is that tourism has not been tackled like an export or a tradable sector that can grow the national economy and increase foreign exchange earnings. The focus of the government at the moment is that tourism and mining have been placed at the center of our structural transformation, so that we can create jobs for our people. We ensure that our people are creating wealth and that their food secure, and also that we can attract investments and foster spirit of entrepreneurship in our people. And by saying that, we are not in any way comparing ourselves to other people. We are not. There's a verse in the Bible that I like so much. I think it's 2 Corinthians 10 verse 12. The Bible says, do not compare yourselves with yourselves, because when you do that, you are not wise. That's what the Bible says. So we are not comparing ourselves with another country. But what we're saying is that we are ready to learn. We are ready to learn from other people. However, as we do that, we are going to harness what is uniquely ours, so that we can leverage on that as we propel our country to its economic growth. And if you really look very closely, Malawi is not short of policy. We could have chosen to allow the sector, as the tourism sector, to develop in an ad hoc manner, but we didn't. We developed specific policies to guide its implementation, so that we can be competitive and that the sector can be inclusive and sustainable. So we have the National Export Strategy 2, which prioritizes tourism as a major sector export, major service export sector. National Tourism Policy of 2019, the Tourism Marketing Strategy, the Domestic Tourism Marketing Strategy, as well as the Master Plan of Tourism that our ministry is implementing at the moment. However, implementation of these policies has not been considered. So why exactly are we not achieving what we are supposed to be achieving? If we have it down at policy level, for example, why are we not achieving? Number one, we have a weak tourism regulatory framework that lacks comprehensiveness as far as legislation is concerned. Number two, our weak sectoral laws and policies to regulate the industry. So what is happening now is that everyone just wakes up, they have some money, they can construct what it is that they want to construct. So there's no proper zoning, and people are just building anyhow and in a haphazard manner. And then there's substandard structures and service, and incompatible land use on prime land for tourism development. So people are building substandard structures on prime land. And while there's institutions that are supposed to be monitoring these things, nothing of that sort is happening at the moment. We also have fluctuating, inconsistent, and competitive investment incentives. So we have people that are coming into Malawi that want to invest, but because of our incentive structure and several other priorities as well, and other issues that may bar them, they're not able to do that. So it is discouraging both local and foreign direct investment into the sector. And then we also have a weak law enforcement weak law enforcement. So the Department of National Parks and Wildlife in our ministry has a low capacity to enforce the law. We have our rangers, which I call very unsung heroes. They are our unsung heroes. Just last year, we lost a ranger, I think in Majete. It was heartbreaking when I heard the story. So these are our unsung heroes. All this that you see, Luonde National Park, Kasungu National Park, we have rangers who put their lives on the line every single day, every single night, to ensure that they are protecting those places. But they are unappreciated, undervalued, and have low capacity themselves. And then also they face a lot of hostility from communities because they are considered as the antof ochingi as ntuzimezwe zijitike. So they are like prey as far as communities are concerned. So these are our rangers. I went to Majete last weekend and I was shown these photos. I took these photos myself, and you can see, as you can see, I want to go to the next photo. That one. On the left, I think my left, those are traps. So when our rangers step on those traps, they can lose their legs, or it is severely damaged. And so do the animals. And on the right, those are handmade guns. So you see the poachers have come a little bit sophisticated. They're like 5 steps forward, you know. But I think it is incumbent upon us as a government and as a people to ensure that we are 27 steps forward so that we can curb the issue of poaching and the issue of ensuring that the welfare of our rangers is enhanced. We also have undeveloped cultural assets. So we don't have a lot of heritage sites or monuments, religious shrines, festival or events, places, arts and crafts, rocks or paintings. So like, where do you really go apart from Paziboliboli for you to go and buy some of these things that our people are making? Where do you go even for a religious shrine just to learn some of these things? So they are there, but they're not adequately developed. We also have inadequate supporting infrastructure and services. So when the DG was talking here, he articulated something that we laid down in the MW 2063. So it's not enough to bring tourists into Malawi. Once they get here, they need to access those places. And they need to be safe being there. Once they're there, they need to be communicating both internally and also outside with their people. And above everything else, they need to receive a service, a very good service. Because at the end of the day, what we are selling outside is a service. And then the ambience. Look at our airports. How are they? You know, and the reception of the people that are manning those places, and also the conduct of the people at the airports, roadblocks, taxi drivers, hotels, or safaris, or tourist tour guides, all of that. What is the conduct of those people? We also don't have a lot of direct flights into Malawi. We are working on fixing this. We are talking to a few airlines that are interested to start or resume coming to Malawi or direct flights, or having their flights into Malawi. Our tourism operators are advertising, their advertising methods is not really focusing on Malawi as a destination. They're focusing on something else, maybe selling something, but not Malawi as a destination. It's not clear, very clear, what is it that we are selling. The moderator here tonight was talking about Malawi being touted as the warm heart of Africa. But if I can take the microphone and move around this room and ask people, what does it really mean when we say we are the warm heart of Africa? Do we have a clear definition, a unanimous, agreed upon definition of what the warm heart of Africa means? So over and above the natural endowments that we have that are unique to us as a people, what is it that we have as our comparative advantage? And there's more. Malawi is an affordable destination. Malawi is safe. Malawi is friendly. Malawi is warm. There's low crime rate here. We have natural beauty. Our water is fresh. And above everything, we have clean air. We breathe clean air. So the emphasis must be on the experience that people are going to have when they come here, whether for holiday, for leisure, or for business. But above everything else, Tizia Mbandi for Malawi, it must start with us. We have no business selling our country if we have not experienced her ourselves. So we have no mandate to tell people to come here. when we have not seen any places at all. I consider that as obscene, for us to be selling something that we have not experienced ourselves. So how many of us have taken our families outside to Leong National Park, to Kasungu National Park, for example? How many of us? How many of us just take a drive to go to the lake and say, oh, I want to just remove my stress, I want to go stay with my family? How many of us? You know, when I talked about advertising, our ancestors in the 1960s, our forefathers, they had it down. Look at that. Morning, fly to smiling, friendly Malawi. Read, there's something that you cannot read below there. I want to read. It says, come and share our peaceful, lovely land, our green hills, our trout streams, our game parks, our sophisticated new hotels, and the laughing, lapping waters of our great inland sea. The welcome starts when you board the big Malawi jet. It was amazing. But how are we doing now our advertising at the moment? This was in the 1960s. This is how we are doing our advertising today. I wanted to use a photograph of the South African Airways. It had 2 ducks on a chair in the business class. And the head of the ducks, they had covered it with the cover of the golf clubs. And literally just telling the person that is seeing to say, you can come and play golf in South Africa. So we need to be a little bit innovative as far as our marketing is concerned when we are marketing our country as a destination. So Malawi is a warm heart of Africa, and I want to show you what that really means. Look at that. So the genuine smiles of our people. This is what we mean when we say we are the warm heart of Africa. Our resilience as a people. Our animals that can teach us so much as humans. The way we prepare our food. Our unique way of preparing food. I went to Rwanda the other time, and I was shocked to learn that from the chimpanzees alone that they have in their national park, they were able to make $80 US every year. But I want to believe that we have much more than they do. And we're not even able to make 2 million out of our national parks, all the animals that we have. We need to change that. So why tourism? I want to now articulate our economic context. So Malawi tourism presents clear comparative advantages and high potential for tradability. It has high job creation potential, and it is because it is labor intensive. It is an export sector with 0 trade barriers, such as quotas and tariffs. And the benefits would be in tax revenues, forex generation, improved living standards of our people, cultural preservation, conservation of our natural resources, and of course, increased visibility of our country. So a few economic facts about our tourism sector. Number 1, growth in the Malawi tourism has been episodic and volatile, as you have seen from the historical context that I presented earlier. So between 1998 and 2020, we had an increase in the number of tourists that were coming. But in spite of the expansion of our hotels and these other facilities in the tourism sector, the industry has not grown that much. Why is that? Maybe this is directing to us to show that probably we may have some deep structural constraints to the development of the sector in Malawi. So this graph is just showing you how we have been performing from 2015. And then it is projecting to how we see that things are going to be by 2025. Number 2, the tourism sector has been punching below its weight. Total contribution of the sector to GDP, including effects from investment, the supply chain, the entire supply chain and induced income impacts, was 389.2 billion in 2019, which was the equivalent of 6.7% of the GDP. However, the direct contribution of the industry to GDP in 2019 was 156.4 billion, representing a 2.7%. The industry generated about 188,500 jobs directly in 2019 alone, representing about 2.4% in the total employment. So this graph is also just showing the contribution to the GDP from 2015 and also projections to 2025. But this is something that I really want you to focus on. So we have the three key sectors, with tourism as a third forex earner in Malawi after tobacco and tea. But the reality is that we can actually do better. Now, look very closely to the forex revenue. So from tobacco, we have about 410 million. From tea, 76.9 million. From tourism, 41 million. This is in US dollars. However, the GDP contribution for tobacco was 13%, and for tea was only 0.21%, but for tourism, it was at 7.3%. That shows you the potential that tourism has for our economy. Number three, Malawi tourism sector is contributing less than her peers. The sector can best be described as the sleeping beauty. Since 2004, receipts from inbound tourists declined from $75 million to as low as $30 million in 2017. Tourism within the region is growing rapidly and increasing its market share. But Malawi tourism has been growing at an average rate considerably lower than her peers. The contribution of approximately 3.5% to the GDP is much, much lower than what is obtaining in the region, which is at 6.6%. This is an anomaly we must correct. And yet, as a sleeping beauty, we have a potential to have religious tourism, culture tourism, trade tourism, humanitarian tourism, adventure, leisure and wellness, wildlife tourism, education tourism, culinary tourism, business tourism. And some of these things we have been seeing already, but however, it is at a very, very minimal rate. Also, Malawi is touted as the world's best kept secret. But personally, I am tired of us being a secret. We must uncover the secret, because what's the point of us being a secret when we cannot leverage from it? So we have a responsibility to ensure that we are uncovering and leveraging and benefiting from this best kept secret. So we refuse for us to remain a secret. We are uncovering ourselves. So this is Nyika National Park. This is Chilema Tree in Malosa, Zomba. This is Mangochi, how it looks from the top. This is Luawa in Mzimba. Bird watching, you can go there for bird watching. This is Satemwa in Cholo, where you can have tea testing. This is in Mzimba, the Plateau stables, where you can go horse riding with your family and friends. These are the Malape pillars in Machinga. And this is a museum in Karonga where we have a skeleton of the dinosaur. So we actually did have dinosaurs right here on our land. And this is the Mua mission in Dedzab. This is the Pumulani Lodge at the Nankumba Peninsula. This is Kutengo in Liwonde. The last point there being that Malawi tourism is mostly domestic and company sponsored. So a lot of people that have gone to Livingstonia Beach, for example, Sunbed Livingstonia, they went there because their company paid for them. And if you ask them, how many of them can say, oh, can you take your family and go to Livingstonia? They will say no. And I'll talk about why that is the case. In 2020, leisure travel spending, inbound and domestic, generated about 25.4% of direct travel and tourism GDP. compared with 74.6 for business travel spending, which was 261 billion. Therefore, the perception that tourists are foreign nationals and campaign efforts that exclusively focus on foreigners are highly misplaced. Tiziyamba ndifa Malawi. But maybe we should ask, why low domestic tourism and the preference of outside travel? Why? There's also indirect and induced service providers need to be included in policy discourse. Many people come to Malawi but use informal structures even to change their money. So we are losing a lot because there's no formalized structure of ensuring that we are harnessing everything and everyone that is coming into our country. So this graph is just showing about the international arrivals from 2015 and the projections also all the way to 2025. But this is where I want you to focus on the regional comparison from key source markets. So we have South Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, and Zambia. So I'm not going to go into details, but I want you to focus on the figures there from Zambia and our figures. Much, much lower than our peers. Much, much lower. And our earnings in the tourism sector are low because we rely on low quality tourists. So although Malawi continues to experience growth in tourist arrivals, as you have seen, the quality of tourists has declined. The African region has grown to be an important source market of international tourists to Malawi, followed by Europe and the United States of America. The majority of those from African countries mostly come for business or professional reasons. And 84% of those that are coming into Malawi, they come by land. This is also another graph that I want you to see. Very, very important. Again, we use the same countries to compare. South Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, and Zambia. Now, I've highlighted Malawi in red for a reason. Now, if you can look very closely to the figures for Malawi. International 932,900. And then compare that with those from Zambia, 1.2. The difference is not really much there. However, look at the receipts from the tourism. For Malawi, from the 932,000, we only had $45 million. But look at Zambia, from 1.2 million, they had 820 million US dollars. Look at the figures from Tanzania. When I was getting these figures, I nearly fainted. From 1.4, they got 2.6 billion US dollars. Our neighbor, Tanzania. Malawian expenditure on tourism exceeds receipts from tourism. So Malawi is a net exporter of tourist services. So with Malawi residents as outbound spenders, spending more than Malawi receives from inbound foreign tourists. So when Malawians are going outside, they are spending more than what we are receiving when people come here. Is it because people don't know where to go or don't know what to spend on? No, it's not. Here is why. A 3-day package in Salima is more expensive than a week-long stay in Zanzibar. Our pricing is simply prohibitive. Malawian residents' expenditure on travel rose from a low 49 million US dollars in 1998 to 120 million in 2017. So what is government doing at the moment? We are implementing the product development in protected areas and touristic sites program. So, and the example of that is the product development in Kasungu National Park. We have also removed the visa requirement for European and Nordic countries, some specific countries from there. We are also working so hard to improve the transport and communication infrastructure to our tourism destinations. Every time I put something about a place on my status on WhatsApp, people ask me, but the road is very bad, the road is very bad. So we are working holistically to ensure that we are improving the transport and communication infrastructure. We are also improving service delivery to give both local and international visitors an unforgettable experience when they come to Malawi. We are doing this by providing training and exposing our operators to other practices across the globe. You know, as visitors are coming to Malawi, we are exposing our country to the world, but we're also bringing the world to our country. So what is happening is that while we are maintaining our authenticity, remember I said we are not comparing ourselves to anybody. But while we are doing that, maintaining our authenticity, we are also learning from other people that are coming into our country and also maybe inspiring them to also invest into Malawi tourism sector. We are also working with local communities to foster decent work and economic empowerment, because we do realize that we cannot achieve a warm-hearted tourism package without a significant contribution or involvement of our communities. And also, most importantly, we are reviewing the tourism law. The Tourism and Hotels Act was enacted in 1968, and it was never reviewed. So we are reviewing now. It is an ongoing exercise, and we are now in the final stages of finalizing that piece of law of legislation. So these are our Kabaza people, very important people in the tourism sector. And those are also the Kabazas, and you can see. There's a reason why I'm putting them there. We need to ensure that everyone within the value chain is involved, and that the policy is also responding to their needs. Because if you go to Mangochi, you see a lot of people, including tourists, on a Kabaza. And our Kabaza people, both the ones that are on the bicycle and the ones that are on the motorbike, don't have helmets. They're not protected at all. So these are the lower end operators, but we need to ensure that everyone holistically is involved as far as the policy or the law is concerned. So what is our role as a stakeholder? So as government, the responsibility is very clear. Create an enabling environment that when private sectors come, it can be lucrative, and they can operate freely, and they get the return on their investment. But as citizens, we are not called the warm heart of Africa for nothing. Be hospitable. Don't ask for money when a white person asks you for help. Just for asking you for help or directions, then you ask for money. Don't overcharge because they are a visitor. Don't take advantage of our visitors. Also, as people, we need to consider looking at the wildlife or animals as a thing of beauty. As something, so you can imagine, I was in Majete on Saturday, and we were talking, and then I was saying, we need to come to a place where a community person is looking at an elephant and saying, without this elephant, my child shouldn't be going to school. Without this elephant, that health center nearby shouldn't have medication. Until we reach those kind of consciousness, then we cannot achieve our tourism aspirations. The private sector, we expect you to invest money and time in tourism development. We also expect you to make recommendations to government on marketing and capacity building and various other issues that government should be looking at. In conclusion, Malawi should transform into a regime that gives due priority to the implementation of its visions, policies, and strategies. We need to fully implement our strategies, policies, and visions. Number two, it is very important that as a country, we should restructure our service sector from one that is based on importation, wholesaling, and retailing to one that is productive, to one that is export-oriented and that is based on job creation. Most of Malawi's tourism attractions are but an endowment that is unique to the country. Hence puts Malawi at a comparative advantage. Although Malawi faces competition from other attractions regionally and globally, nature-based attractions tend to be distinctive and mutually exclusive. There can only be one Mulanje Mountain, and there can only be one Malawian. And Mulanje Mountain will forever be appealing in its own right. We can leverage on that. There is no one who has ever been to Malawi and leaves uninspired. Everyone that has been here, they leave inspired. On the other hand, the consumption of facilities in other countries is not necessarily mutually exclusive. So a tourist that visits Victoria Falls or Luangwa in Zambia can also come and visit Lake Malawi. The tourism marketing strategy must be implemented along with a national service export strategy. Tourism is not the domain of the Minister of Tourism alone or one authority. It is the business of each one of us. Each one of us, whatever it is that you do, you have a divine responsibility to sell our country to the outside world. You have a divine responsibility to sell our country and expose it to us as Malawians as well. Now, having world-class facilities is another thing. It's very, very important. However, we must ensure that we make it a little bit easier for people to do business in Malawi. Most times when things go wrong, they don't go wrong at the policy level. It's the little things or the small things that go wrong. I thank you so much for your attention, and I look forward to seeing you all at the Takula Ndilani Expo on the 26th to 27th of April. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much indeed. Thank you so much. Honorable Minister, I will invite you to stay on the podium because there might be other issues that you may wish to address. Ladies and gentlemen, that is a public lecture by the Minister of Tourism, Mrs. Vera Gantukure, on the value of tourism to Malawi, building national consciousness. A lot of issues that have been raised through that presentation. I would like to see if there are reactions, comments and questions from the floor. Now, seeing as this is quite a big hall, I would like to segment the feedback into the sections that we're sitting on. I will start over here, nearest is best. If there are any people who would like to give any feedback on this side, and then we'll move like that all the way to the end. Was that a hand up, sir? A hesitant hand? Can you raise it more confidently? Good.
First, thank you very much for the wonderful presentation, and it's quite inspiring to hear that. First, let me establish my interest. I'm a member of Parliament and chairperson for the Parliamentary Committee on Social and Community Affairs. So we are deeply interested in the tourism industry. I've observed a few things. One, the money that is being highlighted when it comes to the amount that is coming to Malawi in terms of dollars, there have been rumors that most service providers in Malawi actually advise their customers to pay in a certain account which is not in Malawi, and the money stays there. So there is almost nothing which trickles down here. So you have somebody visiting Malawi, but there will be no direct payment here. I'm not sure how your ministry is trying to look into such kind of issues. The second issue I wanted to highlight is about people harassing our visitors. I have a typical example. My wife traveled just last week, and when she was, she met a certain visitor who said, I have traveled in many countries, but for the first time I arrived in Malawi and my passport was grabbed by a certain officer at the airport for no apparent reason, just because they wanted to harass the visitor to produce money. I am personally interested to try to track, because that visitor is still in Malawi. So I'm trying to get the details so that maybe we can try to address that. The other issue is about reporting of issues, like in hospitality and all that. So I don't know how, if I have been, I feel like I've been abused, how are these facilities structured so that that kind of reporting is more effective? I'll give you a typical example. The hospital where I was working had put a suggestion box at one time, but the people who were supposed to open in the suggestion box were the ones causing the problems sometimes. Unfortunately, somebody had put a suggestion trying to blame the guys responsible for opening the box, and I said, yeah, I've known who was writing that nonsense into that suggestion box. So be careful with the way such kind of reporting mechanisms are set. So I just wanted to make sure that our system in the tourism industry should be that open, but the one keeping the keys should not be the one we want to capture if he's misbehaving. I just wanted to highlight those few, otherwise I had many, but we can discuss the rest later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much indeed. And indeed, there are so many issues raised. 3. I will give a maximum of 2 to the next speakers. 1 or 2 very quick interjections or questions. Any other views from this side before I move to the next? Yes, please. That hand up there.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. My name is Chris Kayamba. I'm a tourism consultant. I'm very much interested on the visa waiver point that you have said. If you remember, the then Minister of Tourism said that the visa waiver was supposed to be effective January, and then His Excellency the President in his SONA, he said that the visa waiver has to be done with immediate effect. But to our surprise, up to date, our prospective tourists are not being able to get into Malawi without paying visa fees. So can you tell us what is the problem and why are you taking so long to effective the directive that was made by Mr. President? Thank you very much.
I will take a few more before I allow the Minister to respond. We are privileged because the then Minister of Tourism is also here. And we've got the current minister here as well. And you said the president is also following this online. Do you have any views and comments from this section before I move to the next? Okay, I take it you are very satisfied with the views raised. I'm coming to this section. Mr. Kantukule, would you like to just say congratulations for a very well done presentation? Very supportive. There's a hand there and one over here. And another one yet over here. Was that a hand up? No, that one over there. I need to be sure if you want to comment. Okay, fine. Let's hear from you first.
Thank you so much, Honorable Minister. My name is Esther Jorobala. I'm a member of Parliament for Majinga East constituency. I have got a question on the issue you tackled concerning the Kia assistance from the Japanese government. I wanted to find out from your ministry how were you involved, or how our technocrats here in Malawi were involved, because looking at the structure which has been put at Kia, it's making even matters worse. It cannot even attract visitors to come to Malawi. Even if you look at our airports, you have talked about flight. We are not having direct flight to Malawi. There is no airport. I'm happy that the president is online and the vice president, they are online, and they have been traveled in other countries. I think we learn whenever we travel. I'm expecting from your ministry or government a day where you'll be coming up with a bill asking members of parliament to approve money to construct proper airports in Malawi to attract visitors. There is no visitor who will be attracted with the way Chileka Airport is. There is no any visitor who will be attracted the way how Kia is. So I would like to ask you and to ask the president if he is listening, that we do not have proper airports in Malawi, and this is putting Malawi at a disadvantaged stage. I submit.
Thank you very much. Actually, when you're landing at Kia, it looks like you're crash landing. You brace for impact until they announce, oh, no, this is normal, that is an airport. And it's like, oh, okay, fine, thank you. So 5 issues that I picked. Service providers asking clients to pay in overseas account and such like, and people harassing visitors until they cough something. Reporting of issues from poor service, how do we handle that in the tourism sector? And the visa waiver, where is it? And then our horrible state of airports, what are we doing about it? I saw more hands on this side. I'll come to you. I just want the minister to respond to this, then I'll come for the last round of questions and comments. Honorable Minister.
Thank you so much, moderator, for those questions. And Honorable Kafwafwa, thank you so much for that question. We're working at the moment with the Reserve Bank of Malawi to ensure that we regularize the payment of services in some of these places in foreign accounts. Actually, it's against the law. I think it's against procedures for people to be doing that. And we've been saying that, highlighting that. But we know that this is happening. So working with the Reserve Bank of Malawi, the Financial Intelligence Unit also, to ensure that we are nipping this in the bud. But it is a very, very bad practice that must be handled. So we are going to be working so closely, and then we'll be making an announcement together. We are also working with Ministry of Finance and also the Malawi Revenue Authority in that regard as well. Because if people are paying their money outside, then it is very difficult for even the Malawi Revenue Authority to collect their revenue from there as well. People harassing visitors, absolutely. You know what? My PS and I, yesterday, on Saturday, we were harassed. We were harassed at the airport. And I was saying, if they're going to harass us, then it means our visitors are in trouble. You know, so it is happening, and we are ensuring that we are working with all relevant stakeholders, the Ministry of Homeland Security, because they are the ones that handle the immigration people and all of that, the police and all that, so that, because we can work so hard to bring our visitors, but they land at Kia, and then their first impression is that person, because those are the people that are having the face of Malawi. The very first people that they will encounter with will be asking money from them. Actually, not asking. Demanding money from them. It is ridiculous, and it must stop forthwith. So we are working so hard. We were talking within the ministry to say we need to conduct another training, because I think previously there used to be trainings, but we want to do another training holistically. And this training should not just be ad hoc. They will be ongoing, to ensure that we are providing training to our people, to ensure you need to know a little bit of customer care. When people come, smile at them. That's why I said, for us to deliver a warm-hearted tourism package, it involves all of us. Because you would meet somebody, even yourself, and then they just ask you for directions. The way you're going to handle them will show whether we are warm-hearted people or not. So we are working so hard to ensure that that is reversed. Reporting of issues, yes, absolutely. So we know, like even at BICC, there's a suggestion box. But most importantly, as a ministry, we also have a toll-free line. What's the toll-free line number? My director can't even remember it, but we have a toll-free line that I'm going to say. I need it so that I can. 467, it's 467. So you can call that toll-free line to report any malpractice in the sector. But also our operators are also encouraged to ensure that they have those suggestion boxes. But they're supposed to be working with us, but also with management. So I understand to say. The person that is supposed to be opening the suggestion boxes is the one that is doing those things, so it becomes a little bit difficult. But usually this will be about the sector. A friend of mine some time back was telling me, I think when we just had the reshuffle and they learned that I was going to tourism, they said, even the people that are manning our reception areas, the front desk people, need to have an idea in terms of where people can go. So they went to a certain hotel, and this person, he had 5 hours to queue, and then he went to the reception and asked, where can I go? I have 5 hours to queue before my next meeting. They were told, call the Ministry of Tourism. They didn't supply the number for the Ministry of Tourism. They had absolutely no idea of where this person could go within 5 hours. What we are saying is everyone needs to know these things, and especially if you're working within the sector, please get to know what a person can do in 5 hours within Lilongwe. So we are working towards that as well. Mr. Kayamba, the waiver, yes, the president in the SONA, he made that pronouncement, but we had to follow, the due process was that the Ministry of Homeland Security had to work with immigration to supply that information to the Ministry of Finance. Because at the end of the day, we were not the ones, as a ministry legally, that were mandated to do the waiver or to gazette the waiver. So it's a responsibility of the Ministry of Finance together with the Ministry of Justice. So that process has been done. And I think in the next 2 weeks, we will be making an announcement after the gazette is out. So that is already taken care of. Honorable Esther Joba, yes, I agree. If you go to Chireka Airport, so we had an encounter ourselves on Saturday with the PS. And so we had this investor with us from America. And then he says, I want a Coke. But for that Coca-Cola bottle to come, it took like about 25 minutes because there's no fridge in our VIP section. There's nothing, and it was really, really hot. The air conditioner was not even working. So, and then he said, and Honorable Minister, this is your VIP section? And I was like, yes, it is. But I was a little bit embarrassed, but that's what we had to do at that moment. So I want to agree. And I want to believe that the government at the time, they worked with the government of Japan. And I want to on behalf of the people of Malawi, to say thank you to the people of Japan for the assistance that they rendered to us to give a facelift to Kamuzu International Airport. It wasn't like that. So we will be working to ensure that we have more airports, better airports and all of that, but we cannot be downgrading what the Japanese government did to us and say, oh no, it was not good enough, it's even made things worse. I don't think it would be prudent for us to do so. But what I can say is that the government was very much involved in the development of that project, in the facelifting of Kamuzu International Airport, and that we will be working, and thank you so much for saying that we should bring a bill. We will be working with the Minister of Finance to bring a bill, not only for the airports, but for other things as well. While this may not necessarily be the responsibility of the Minister of Tourism, we are the beneficiaries of a very good airport. But it is not the responsibility of the Minister of Tourism, it will be the Minister of Transport and Public Works to ensure that that is done. But we will work closely. That's why I said coordination has to be there for us to deliver a very holistic package as far as tourism is concerned. Okay. Minister of Information, Homeland Security, Transport and Public Works, everyone has to be involved. So thank you so much, Honorable, for that question.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, I have a suggestion on how to keep Coke cold. In the village, they use a big ntuko and they keep their water there, and it's very cool. In the face of the constant blackouts, maybe we might wish to explore that. There were hands that showed up here, and there are people who are following this online, and they're wondering if they can also join in the conversation. By all means, please do. Send your comments through the comment section. If you're following this discussion online, it's being streamed live on Zodiac Online. We're going to read out some of the comments. For example, Jeremy Namwali is writing from Houston, Texas. He says prices for car rentals from major companies are very expensive in Malawi regionally. Any plans to intervene? One of the comments there, and someone, Irene Patso, says airports are reflective of the whole nation. We must step up on this issue. Quite depressing, but that's what somebody thinks. You had a hand raised, sir.
Thanks a lot, Joab. And thanks a lot, Honorable Minister. My name is Dennis Imani. I've been in the tourism sector for quite a long time. And I like your honesty when you are addressing some of the issues that you have raised in your lecture. My concern or question would be on the part of the development of the tourism industry. I think for the past few years there have been several grants and several assistance to the country to develop tourism, mainly targeting young people and women. I know of the African Development Bank PICS project. I know of the GIZ Miera project, and I think there have been several other projects. But we are not very sure how these grants have been used or have benefited the target beneficiaries, who are mostly young people or local women or local operators. I wanted to find out from you, have you looked at the beneficiaries that benefited from those projects? I know some of these might still be ongoing, and have people really benefited? The other thing that I would also want to just add is you have been very honest in how you have seen the tourism, mainly issues to do with the airport and everything. On the pricing of our hotels, lodges, and accommodation, do you think a Malawian would have the courage to speak to someone from outside about the pricings that we have and convince them to stay, when they themselves have failed to stay? And what do you think you can do now as a ministry to make sure that the pricing is affordable to the locals, so we do have like more of domestic people patronizing our places and different attractions? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dennis. There's a hand up there, and I think I saw another one over there.
Thank you so much, Joab, and thank you so much, Honorable Minister, for the wonderful presentation. My name is Grace Kamanga. I'm a lecturer at Mzuzu University, Department of Tourism. I have about 3 questions. The first one, I'll pick up from what Dennis asked about domestic tourism. I really like the way you presented to say it is Yambandi for Malawi. But one of the challenges that I've also had at personal level is that I find the prices to be really expensive. And you're even surprised that in other places when you go, you're charged in US dollars. Yet you have Malawi kwacha, and the prices are really high. So I was expecting to see some interventions on what is the government is doing, but I didn't see anything. So I would really like to know if the government can intervene on that one. So the second one I have is about some tourism destinations that you mentioned, for example, Malawi Pillars and other destinations that we have. In some destinations, we don't really have the amenities. For example, the restrooms, maybe the food places around. So I don't know if there are any plans to develop those amenities, because I understand it's very difficult for us to visit those places if we don't have the required amenities in those places. The last question I have is about is to do with the hostility of some communities, which you also talked about when you were talking about the protected areas. Because my understanding is that in these places, we have communities which were relying on the natural resources before maybe tourism came. So the question that I have is, to what extent do we involve these communities so that they shouldn't be hostile? I always question issues to do with involvement and tokenism. Do we really involve them in all stages, or else we just do some kind of tokenism? Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. More comments coming in on our Facebook feed. Visa fees, please titani. Maneba tuonse yao ndiotika. And they have good tourism places. And this is coming from Ken Pantula. And Samuel Nalikungwi says it is Yambandi for Malawi to go and visit these nice places, but fares are on the high side for Malawians. Keith Hege Jr. says, talking about airports, why are we focusing on 2 airports? What about the Mzuzu one? Do you have a plan to move the Mzuzu airport to another place? All right, let's hear from the ladies right here.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Honorable Minister, for a wonderful presentation. My name is Florentine Kabefu. I'm a hospitality and tourism consultant. I would like to make a few comments on your presentation. As much as I consult now, I've been privy to be private sector, and also be on your committees when you involve private sector and when making policy. Now, I'm going to talk of a few things. The first one is tourism development and planning that you rightfully presented on. I'm aware that for the longest time, the department has introduced incentives, for example, into investment in tourism and all, which are, for example, for lodges under 50 rooms and so on and so forth. However, I feel maybe the information did not get the end users, because the area that was sort of implementing these incentives would be MRA. And I'm very aware that most tourism operators were not aware of these incentives, so much that MRA officials have been taking advantage of them and still charging them to process these things. So they'll, for example, they'll come to me and say, I hear there's a waiver on duty for bringing in furniture for a conference room. How come when I went to MRA, I had to bribe someone to be able to get that waiver when it's actually their entitlement? So what is the tourism ministry doing to make sure MRA is actually really doing, implementing your policies in a way that best makes tourism shine in Malawi? Because there's no use us coming up with a wonderful policy that is not really being implemented correctly. I think it's something we need to look at. My second one is, I'm very happy that you've actually compared Malawi to our neighbors. I'm also very aware that one thing we've been lobbying, now I'm going to talk as an operator, we've been lobbying for taxes to be looked at. If you look at our neighboring countries, yes, they're making millions like in Zambia and all. They have made the environment very favorable for the tourism operators in reduction of taxes. They actually make conscious decisions to make sure the taxes are less. In our case in Malawi, the taxes keep on being introduced. which makes it very difficult for operators to charge low prices. Another thing, I know you've said that we're very expensive. 3/4 of the things that we have in our hotels are imported. We don't have a manufacturing industry in Malawi. For example, to get good linen and all that. So these operators are investing highly, and for them to get the return on investment, it's not easy. So these are areas that you need to look at, probably something in manufacturing. When we're being graded, we're asked to have and maintain a certain standards from even the tissue you use. So all this pricing cannot go down unless the government looks at the duties and taxes that we're paying through thick and thin to make sure these establishments are looking this good and are maintained this way. I would like to know what government would do about that. Thirdly is the communication. Okay. My last one. Thirdly is the communication. Is there a way that the ministry can improve communication to the operators themselves? Because there are some people that are very active and are always there to know what's going on. But the main players, we've got over 1,000 operators in Malawi, and we can see how few people are in here. How do we make sure all those people are getting what tourism is doing? Because I'm aware that there are quite good initiatives, and very good initiatives indeed, for the Malawian at large, but people don't know of them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know Florentine is quite passionate about issues of tourism, and I just had to cut her, but very important observations raised. I'll give the microphone to my lady right here, and then we will wrap up, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Joe. My name is Manganai Kambau. I'm an avid hiker. I'll speak about Mulanje Mountain, because I think that's the most painful hike I've ever done. Are there any plans to bring up a car cable to Mulanje Mountain? Because I know a lot of people would want to go to Mulanje Mountain, to Sapitwa Peak. But because it takes about 2 days to get to Sapitwa, are there any plans to bring in a cable car just like the Table Mountains? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that quick interjection. Tourism industry has the potential to change our economy. Honorable Minister, how are you handling beggars in the sector? It's too much. That is coming from Winston Fatani. Otherwise, there have been other key issues raised, issues of grants in the tourism sector. Are they benefiting the people that should benefit? Have we done a quick check to see if indeed the money has gone to the right people, and is it doing what it should do? Issues of pricing in hotels, something that I haven't heard for the first time. Our hotels are very, very expensive, and although we say it is Yambandi for Malawi, it's difficult to reach Yambandi for Malawi, because when you look at the amount that you have to part with for just spending one night in a hotel, you start thinking of how many bags of maize you can buy with that. And when you find the answer, you drop the whole idea. I think there was an issue about pricing in United States dollars, and then amenities at key lodges, toilets and things like that are not in good condition, and hostile communities. Issues of incentives for tourist operators, people, for example, who are operating lodges with less than 50 rooms should benefit from some subventions and things like that, and but the beneficiaries don't seem to know anything about it. Taxes in the tourism sectors are too high. Manufacturing is dead in the country, so for you to run a lodge, you basically import almost everything, and then it's difficult to maintain high standards because the exports are too high. And communication, operators don't get the necessary information. What is the minister doing about that? And tourist attraction sites, Mulanje being one of them, we could do a lot, and that single mountain can bring in a lot of money. What are we doing about those? I would like to invite the Honorable Minister to respond to these questions and observations, and then we're going to close for the evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Moderator. Quite a mouthful there. But I'll try. Car rental is expensive, yes. And like I said, when we're talking about packaging a tourism entity, it has to be holistic. So, for example, somebody coming to Malawi as a destination, which also goes back to how we are marketing, how we are doing the whole implementation of tourism. What exactly is it that we are selling to the outside world? So we need to package it in such a way to say, okay, I'm going to work with the people that are owning cars, the cars for the safaris and whatever, so that the pricing now, because if you're working as a team, then it becomes a little bit easier than for you to own and have everything on your own. So it becomes expensive indeed. And yes, our airports reflect the whole nation. Yes, that's true. And then beggars in the sector. I'm so glad you called them beggars, because that's what they are. They are begging and harassing our visitors. That must stop. So yes, and also we are working with operators, especially like in the taxi business, the vehicle business, the ones that, the rental cars businesses and all that, to put in the metering. We would like to have metering, because you can imagine, somebody was telling me that they were once charged 100,000 from BICC to airport. Imagine, that is ridiculous, but that's what happened, 100,000. So we need to introduce maybe metering of our taxis and the higher vehicles. Dennis Imani, you're talking about the PICS project. What I can say there is that this is an ongoing project, and the monitoring, we have a monitoring function of that project. So we did receive grants that we had given to young people and women that received those grants, but we are looking into the whole issue of monitoring and ensuring that we also get more grants. But what I can say for now is that I've seen the report. They are doing well, some of them. But because of the COVID-19 pandemic and other issues that came affecting the sector, some of them didn't do as expected. But we are continuing with our monitoring and capacity building. So please, I do invite you, if you have any suggestions on how that can be done, you can also come to us so that we can talk. But that is an ongoing project and exercise. Pricing of hotels and lodges. Do you think that people would have the audacity to tell others to come to Malawi based on the pricing? I think my answer there would be absolutely yes. But I think your question should have been maybe what are you doing to ensure that the pricing is down? And I think it also connects to the questions that other people have said. I think Ms. Valentine, where she's saying, because there's a reason why the pricing is that high. There's the taxation issues, but also I think the commodities and materials that the operators need to buy. And I think if you can remember from my presentation, I did say within the sector we are relying so much on importing and then retailing. So everything we are buying outside. So I'm so glad the champion of the MW 2063 is here from the National Planning Commission, the DG himself. This is what Malawi 2063 is all about, where we are saying we are industrializing our country. That's why I had put that postulation there, to say we had resolved as a country that we're going to be a middle-income country, that we are going to do this by the 2063 and all of that. Industry is thriving in our country, where we are making those materials ourselves. What should stop us from making our own bed sheets here that can meet the standards of the people, our inspectors in the tourism sector? It is very possible for us to do that. We grow our own cotton. We have the Mapeto wholesalers there that make materials, and I think there are also other companies that are making. But it's about what you making the specifications to say this is what we want, and companies should be able to do that. So if you have the whole value chain of maybe cotton, from the cotton growers all the way to the production of the material, that should be done. Those are the things that we need to be doing in Malawi, because until we get there, the prices can never go low, because we'll always be depending on the prices of other people, and then it means whatever volatility that is happening there is also going to be affecting us, and then the end user is the one that is going to pay the price, and that high price. So yeah, we need to ensure that we are selling our country, but the underlying issues that have to happen, we need to ensure that we are working so hard to ensure that we are building capacity of our country to be manufacturing some of these things, the furniture and all these materials that hotels and operators are using, so that the prices should go down. And yes, we are also working with the Ministry of Finance to ensure that maybe the whole taxation issues are revised, Malawi Revenue Authority as well. There are whole communication issues to ensure that whatever it is that we have. I just had 3 weeks ago an encounter with a person that is Malawian, but is in America, that is investing so much in the tourism sector here, and he didn't know about the waiver of, if you have a facility of 50 plus rooms, you can have a waiver on the taxes. He didn't know that. It's because maybe we're not doing so much as far as communication is concerned. So I do agree that maybe we need to up our game as far as communication is concerned from our ministry, but also throughout the value chain, and also through the stakeholders that we do cooperate with as we do our work every day. Madam Grace Kamanga from Mzuni, yes, prices are exorbitant, I do agree, and then charging of foreign currency, like I said, this is illegal. It's not allowed for people to be charged in foreign currency in Malawi. So there should be those prices for Malawians and then prices maybe for foreign nationals. But people shouldn't be allowed, Malawians shouldn't be allowed to pay in foreign currency. And we need to find a way of ensuring that we are bringing down those prices. Yeah, there are no amenities at Malawi Pillars, and it's not the only place that doesn't have amenities. There's several places as well. But a place like Malawi, I think it belongs now to the Ministry of Local Government, because the culture component has been taken to that ministry. So we will work, because at the end of the day, it's still a product that we can be marketing from the tourism perspective. So we'll be working together with the Ministry of Local Government to ensure that we are doing this. The involvement of communities, they are hostile, especially maybe when they are surrounding these places that have tourist attraction. That is true, and like I said, they're even hostile to even our rangers as well, that we have a place so that they can protect these places. And like I said in my presentation, I did say that we cannot deliver a successful tourism package without the involvement of the communities. Communities need to be involved. So once they are involved, they'll get the memo, they'll get in line. But you cannot come and do a development at Malawi Hills and then Malawi Pillars and you don't involve the communities, you've disenfranchised them. They're going to fight you, that's their place. So it's about how you're doing your planning, how you're doing the resource mobilization, how you're doing your mobilization of stakeholders. All of that, it has to be incorporated, and you have to ensure that at the center of everything that you're doing, communities are involved. So it is an anomaly to have communities that would be outside of a project or a program that has something to do with tourism. So we'll also look into that. And I'm so glad that the Mzuzu University now is delivering on hospitality degrees now. I think that's really good. I'm not sure to what extent you worked with our ministry in terms of the curriculum itself and all of that, even the MIT, but that would be something that we'll be very much interested in, to look at what you are teaching your students, because once they get out, those are the people that are going to be manning some of these places that we're talking about. And capacity building is one of the issues that we are having a challenge in. So we would want to, as much as possible, work closely with your department or your faculty to give you our perspective over what we would want as far as skills development is concerned. I think somebody online talked about the visa fees being too high in Malawi, fares for Malawians being too high. And then what about Mzuzu Airport? When you talk about airport development, it's just not about Kia and Chileka. There's a lot of airports. The Mzuzu Airport, there's an airport in Likoma Island that also has to be looked into, and several other places as well. Like Mangochi also needs to have an airport. We also need to have an airport in Usisia, also needs to have an airport as well. So there's a lot of airports that will have to be developed. We have a master plan, of 10-year master plan as far as tourism is concerned within the ministry, and some of those developments are also incorporated in that master plan. Ms. Valentine, you spoke about tourism development, planning, incentives, but information doesn't get to the end user, and I think I've responded to this, and yes, that's very true. I have witnessed that happening, and we will promise to ensure that we are communicating as much as we can, even using social media, so that people should get the information that they need to get. But also, I think, coordinating with other MDAs and entities of government to ensure that what we know, they also know. Because it's another thing for us to say there's a waiver of duty, and then MRA people going to harass our operators or people that are investing in the sector. You've been lobbying for taxes to be looked into. Yes, this is an ongoing exercise, and we're working with the relevant authorities to ensure that we are talking about the issues of taxation. The whole taxation issues may have to be revised. We don't have a manufacturing industry. Yes, we don't, but that's the route that we are taking as a country as far as the MW 2063 is concerned. And Madam Kambaua, you spoke about the cable cars on Mulanje Mountain. That's a project that is in the master plan as well. It is coming. That's what I can say. It is very, very much coming. Because remember, I said that we only have one Mulanje Mountain, and if you cannot experience Mulanje Mountain, then you haven't been to Malawi. So we want people to make it easy for people to get into Mulanje Mountain. So we are bringing that project, the cable cars project, onto Mulanje Mountain. Mr. Moderator, I think those were my questions. And,
yes, they were, but allow me to just read out this very quick question coming from Nyamarikiti Ntiwatiwa. It says, some lakeside hotels have previously been caught polluting our headlining tourism resource, others distorting the beachfront by reclaiming land to construct their structures. How is the ministry addressing this? That's the last one from the Facebook feed that we're getting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes, some lakeside hotels pollute on our natural resources. I think that's why I've been talking endlessly about coordinating with other ministries, because when you talk about the land on which to construct a hotel or anywhere else, that's not the responsibility of the Minister of Tourism. That will be the Minister of Lands. The zoning issues are done with the Minister of Lands, and then the natural resources aspect is also maintained by ourselves, but also the Minister of Natural Resources, manned by Honorable Dr. Michael Usi. But suffice it to say that our job as a Ministry of Tourism, as a beneficiary of whatever development is happening within the sector, it is incumbent upon us to ensure that we are inspecting development in that regard. So when we go for inspections, we just don't see if the rooms are in the right size. We also look at the other things that we are doing. So if there's any pollution, and I think this is where we want to partner with the public as well. I think as citizens we have a responsibility. If you see that some things are not going right, please do sound us. We have that toll-free line, but call us, send us a message on WhatsApp, on Facebook or Twitter. We will be more than willing to respond to those things. You can even just go to the police. Because all of us are one government and we are working very closely together. So it is true that they are polluting, especially when they're trying to make developments. But also we also heard that some people would even be barring people from the communities to say you cannot come to the beach because we own this land. So there are those things that we are also working on as a ministry to ensure that we are correcting them. I want to say this at the end that I didn't say in my presentation. When you talk about the lake, our lake is fresh water in Africa. When you go to Lake Malawi National Park, we have 1,000 species of fish, the largest species of fish in one place in the world. And 700 of those species are found at Lake Malawi National Park. Amazing. It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Amazing place. But you know what? Out of 20 million Malawians, maybe even less than 100 have ever experienced that. That is an anomaly we must correct. The lake belongs to the 20 million of us. All those Lake Malawi, everything that I was showing you here, it belongs to all of us. And we need to ensure that we are making policies and strategies and programs that ensure that all of us do get to enjoy this natural endowment that God is in his infinite mercies willingly and freely gave to all of us. I do thank you so very much indeed for sparing your time to come and listen to my lecture. May God sincerely bless you and bless Malawi. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We can take our seats. This marks the end of the public lecture by the Honorable Minister for Tourism, Mrs. Vera Kantukure. Quite engaging indeed. It's only through honest conversations like this that we can make headway in making Malawi the best tourist destination in the world and improving our offering to the world. And judging from the comments on our Facebook line, on Lab 20 as well as on Zodiac, people seemed to love the conversation and the honest manner in which it was held, and some are asking that possibly we should consider having these kinds of conversations more regularly, and also have some of them in Chichewa so that other people can also join in the conversation. All those observations and comments are most appreciated indeed. We have Lab 20 as well to thank, because they have been providing live streaming services for free, as well as video shooting free of charge. Let's give them a round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Lab 20, for that. And another very exciting announcement is that there are refreshments that have been prepared for us. So don't just rush home yet. We still need to continue networking. There are a few nibbles and drinks that have been prepared for us. I don't know if the gentleman who opened with a word of prayer is still around. If he is, I'd like to invite him to come forward and close this meeting with a word of prayer. Thank you.
shall we pray? Our Heavenly Father, we come before you again. We would like to thank you for the time that we had, for the deliberations that we had. We have seen you in our midst, and all these that have been discussed here, we know that they'll be implemented under your guidance. May you be with us as we be traveling back home. May you be our guidance. May you be protecting us wherever we're going so that we reach our destination safely. May you also be with us as we be having the refreshments. May you be with us all and also be with our mother country, Malawi. Amen.
Thank you very much.